All right. So Edgar Allan, often referred to as the father of Easter seals, was a prominent businessman, an active member in the Elyria, Ohio Rotary Club. And with his friend, Paul Harris, the organizer of one of the first Rotary clubs, Rotary 1 in 1905, they started Easter seals together. Tragically, Allan's son was killed in a streetcar accident, and they didn't have a hospital in Elyria. So they got together and raised enough money to build Elyria's first hospital in 1908. This is where Paul Allen met Jimmy, a young boy who couldn't walk, and he started to really learn about children who had physical disabilities, but were still really children. A lot of times in the past, those children were taken to other places and cared for separately. So they really started to recognize that just because a child had physical disabilities didn't mean that they weren't able to have normal activities. So they built the first hospital for crippled children in 1915. It was the first of its kind in the country. In 1919, they also founded what would become the Ohio Association for Crippled Children, also the first organization of its kind. And in 1921, the National Society for Crippled Children was formed. And by 1929, 23 states were members. Most often, it was Allen and Harris together mobilizing Rotary clubs to help organize crippled children's societies. So this was the birth of the Easter seal, as a lot of people like to call it. I don't know if you guys remember the Easter seals that came in the mail. I remember Easter seals coming in the mail, even as a child, when you would have you would donate in exchange for them. And of course, my mother would always let me play with them and do everything up with them. But these were the original seals. They were created in the spring of 1934, and they were just to raise money for the services that would benefit the children. 8 states participated in the campaign, which raised $47,000, which at the time was an amazing, amazing amount of money. A mythbuster is that Easter Seals is a religious organization. We are actually not a religious organization. Easter was used as the word resurrection, meaning giving the children who are crippled a new life and a new chance at life. So the Easter Seal is actually bringing, new children a new life. So Ezra Jones was the first orthopedic surgeon in New Hampshire and joined forces with the New Hampshire Rotary and formed the New Hampshire chapter of the society. So Easter Seals New Hampshire, while Easter Seals, the national organization, is about 100 years old now, Easter Seals New Hampshire was one of its very, very first affiliates and is 85 years old. Easter Seals Vermont is 40 years old and works exclusively to help foster children in the state of Vermont. In 1944, the words "and adults" were added to the National Society for Crippled Children's name. And in 1952, the organization adopted the lily as its symbol and later its trademark. The societies for children and adults with disabilities are informally referred to as the Easter Seal Societies. And then we became Easter Seals as we are known now. Today, Easter Seals provides exceptional services to ensure that all people with special needs and disabilities have equal opportunities to live, learn, work, and play in their communities. In Vermont, we certainly also expand this to foster children, their families, and then later, as you'll learn, with veterans and service members and their families, we do a lot to support them throughout Vermont and New Hampshire. We are part of a national organization, but I liken it a lot to the Girl Scouts. We are kind of troops that work within our communities, and there is an kind of seeing organization that does that branding and that outreach, but really all of our money is earned locally, fundraised locally, spent locally. So there's really no connection between us and the national organization except for that branding and that name. In 2019, Easter Seals New Hampshire alone provided services to nearly 26,000 individuals. I can tell you that Vermont provided services to 1,400 foster children and families in 2019 alone. Easter Seals New Hampshire has an annual budget of about $100 million. Easter Seals Vermont has an annual budget of about $9 million. And we are considered sometimes in some ways to be one of the programs under New Hampshire as they take care of our administrative and that kind of thing, payroll, HR, that kind of stuff. So all of the money earned for Easter Seals Vermont goes directly to Vermonters, and always there's 90 cents of every dollar given to Easter Seals or Vets Count is spent on our clients. These are Easter Seals' 11 core programs. These are the ones in New Hampshire, the autism services. They do campsites for children to get out during the summertime. We have child development centers. We do transportation. We also are in charge now of the Farnham Center, which is a very veteran-oriented, but everyone-oriented treatment center rehabilitation facility in New Hampshire. Workforce development, residential services, obviously military and veteran services. So we do a lot of stuff throughout a lot of different areas in New Hampshire and Vermont. So these are the sites within New Hampshire. This is kind of all the different things that we do in all of those areas. We have 11 offices in Vermont. Throughout the state, from Newport down to Bennington and everywhere in between. And that is where we do things like family time coaching, where you get children together with their foster parents or their biological parents, and they get to meet and work together and become a family, whether that child is moving on to a new family or is staying and going to try again with the family from which they came. This is just kind of our social media stuff. Obviously, you can go to easterseals.com or .org and type in New Hampshire or Vermont, and you would get either of us. Vets Count is vetscount.org, Farnham Center, and then, of course, all the social media fun. Christine Peterson is our Director of Events and Corporate Relations in New Hampshire, and I'm the Director here in Vermont. So just really quickly, Easter Seals Military and Veterans Services. This is for New Hampshire and Vermont. We work with Vets Count, which is the philanthropic arm of that organization, to basically fill gaps for any veteran or service member who needs it, pretty much within all of New England. We have chapters in Massachusetts, Maine, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Vermont, and I believe there's also a chapter in North Carolina. So basically, this is not a program through a government entity. We pair every veteran or service member who needs help with a care coordinator, someone who can help them kind of sort out what their issues might be. Could be budgeting, could be just a job issue, could be maybe they need extra mental health services, they might need transportation, whatever those needs are. We sit down, we work with them, and sometimes they need financial assistance. I'll tell you that in the state of Vermont, the Veterans Administration will, through the state, will give a veteran who has been evicted $500 towards a new place. But you can't apply for it until you've already been evicted or foreclosed on, and the cap is $500, and it's a one-time only thing. Veterans Count kind of looked at programs like that, and while we're grateful to them and help veterans access them as they can, we try to prevent homelessness for a veteran from ever happening. So we generally want to know before a vet is suffering from an eviction or a foreclosure, and we'll try and step in and fill some of those gaps while helping them figure out how they can figure out those gaps themselves. So we try to call us a hand up rather than a hand out, if you will. So anyway, we were started in 2007. General Ken Clark, who's Brigadier General, started this particular group. They were called the Vets Count Club. It was started because we used to have a group called Seniors Count, where they worked for seniors and helping them in our New Hampshire programs. So we have now chapters all throughout Vermont, New Hampshire, like I said, Massachusetts, Maine, and they all do independent fundraising. We have a group here in the Upper Valley that has started just 3 years ago and is really doing amazing things. We are working with the Quechee Club right now to do a golf tournament and a 5K run. So that'll be nice just to kind of get them doing something this year post-COVID. And yeah, we've recently partnered with the law school to bring law advice to veterans, and they also do things like upgrade discharges. So like if you are maybe discharged medically, so you don't qualify for other services, sometimes the students and the vets clinic at the law school can help those veterans get upgraded to an honorable discharge or something that will help them access benefits in a more convenient way. Let's see. So anyway, this is just kind of an impact report. Some of the things that Vets Count has done. This was for 2 years ago. 2020 was definitely an odd year, and we're still putting all those reports together. But generally speaking, we do amazing things within our veteran and service member community. Our care coordinators really, really go to the ends of the earth to help them. We had a local single mom who came home to Brattleboro from, I believe she lived in like South Carolina, 4 kids, domestic violence situation, was working, was walking to all the kids' appointments, so forth and so on for well over a year, reached out to Vets Count, and we were able to help her secure a new vehicle through Progressive. They have like a Drive for Success program, and we applied with her. They awarded her a new vehicle, plus all the stuff that you kind of like a year's worth of gas and insurance, cost to help it. But it really made a huge difference just in her life. And now, of course, she's giving back and volunteering with us, which is a really cool way to kind of keep it going and pay it forward. Okay, so I'm not going to take up any more of your time. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or?
Any questions? I just got mine there. David Allen, go ahead.
Yeah, interesting. I did not know what Easter Seals was. And I've heard the name. I mean, I knew the name, but I didn't know. So thank you very much. I noticed on that very last slide that by far the largest dollar amount, $630,000, was for care coordination. I would be interested in that. And then I also wanted to ask about the changes in government support for the disabled and how society treats the disabled have been tremendous over the last 85 or 100 years. The Americans with Disabilities Act has vastly improved accessibility, the way schools mainstream the disabled is new in that time period. So my second question is, how has that impacted Easter Seals?
Absolutely. Those are great questions. First of all, the care coordination, those are our care coordinators who work one-on-one with veterans and service members. So not probably having my spreadsheets up right now. My guess would be that number comes from not only their salaries, but also the time invested and that kind of thing with working with them one-on-one. A lot of that is transportation time, that kind of thing as well. So that's my guess where that number is from. My best guess. Exactly. But I definitely can, I have better reports with a better breakdown. The other question is a really good one because it's so integral. In fact, in Vermont, we work with DCF a lot because we are the ones who contract to do those care coordination and family time coaching, which is Vermont, I should add, is a national leader in this particular area. We have developed the training methods involved for all the states in order to make sure that these transitions for young children go really smoothly. And it's not something anybody ever knows about Easter Seals Vermont, so I like to throw it out there. But yes, having one of the biggest things we can do at Easter Seals, besides provide the services, it is advocate for the people who need them. So one of those things that we do, of course, is advocate for the types of services that people who are disabled, who are struggling with autism. I have a son who is autistic, so I am very familiar with those kinds of things. And getting them, once laws are passed and once things are kind of the way is paved legislatively, that opens the doors for insurance to be able to pay for things, for Medicaid to participate, for lower income families, for all of those types of services to finally be able to pay for the type of work that Easter Seals does, in addition to the fundraising work that we do. So we have been very, very lucky to be beneficiaries of CARES Act, of course, funds, those types of grants. We work very very closely with a lot of local, both medical communities. I apply for a lot of grants locally, of course. Hypertherm is a huge supporter of Easter seals, both Vermont and New Hampshire, and Veterans Count. So we really, really try to work the relationships. It's been difficult, especially in Vermont, because Easter seals isn't a household name here yet. And because so many people associate even the name with that national big, it's been difficult to kind of say, but we started as a grassroots organization that just needed the name to kind of bring it a little bit of, credibility way back when. So it's kind of funny how those things work. And we are really, really trying to kind of show the connections that Easter seals, both New Hampshire and Vermont, make with the children locally, because it's really, I think, important, especially now, having been a Chelsea kid who went away and came back. It's important to provide the services that we need even here, so that we can stay here and we can have our families stay here and feel like they can, and that they're not missing something somewhere else. But that was a really long-winded way to answer your question.
But a great answer. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Michelle.
I am so glad.
Other questions? So what have been the major impacts of COVID pandemic on Easter seals?
Easter Seals Vermont was impacted in an interesting way, because most of our everything we do is one-on-one. So we go to the home, we facilitate, everything from playtime. So if you put yourself kind of in the image of what happens in a family time coaching session, for example, you have parents who are maybe not the best choice right now to be watching their own children, but they're working on things. Maybe they're going to anger management. Maybe they're doing substance treatment, abuse treatment. Maybe they're having different kinds of therapies. Maybe they're housing insecure. So whatever is going on in their world, they're not happy people probably right now. And then you also have a child in the middle who really just wants to go to school and make sure they have shoes, and they don't, and I have 8 children, so I understand how they feel. And then you have maybe a foster family or a teacher or somebody who's in a residential care facility who's caring for the child. And these people have to come together once a month or every other week, or however the visitation works. And then all of that had to stop. And it had to go to Zoom, which is how we ended up having to do that. So COVID impacted us in a technology standpoint hugely, because all of a sudden we had to find cell phones for parents who didn't have cell phones, and pay for them, and find them Wi-Fi. And kids didn't have Wi-Fi to go to school, but they had to stay home, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So Easter Seals Vermont, we really kind of put out the call to a lot of local organizations. We filled out a lot of emergency COVID applications, and we got a lot of money in to upgrade the technology of both our workers and of the people who needed them, and to try. And we had so many requests go through for so-and-so to get a cell phone, and so-and-so's mom couldn't get Wi-Fi. Is there a voucher so that they can get internet in the home, and so forth and so on. In New Hampshire, services never stopped. We do hands-on kind of one-on-one care of all kinds of people. We have residential facilities for children there. I believe that for that first quarantine period, of course, our senior day programs stopped, and our child daycare had to stop for a little while. But New Hampshire was much more open than Vermont was earlier. So a lot of their stuff also came back online a little faster than we did here in Vermont. But truthfully, they've been rocking it in Vermont. I got to tell you, people thank me all the time for the work Easter Seals Vermont does. And I'm like, you have no idea. I have the easiest job in the world compared to what those people do. They are driving kids to work. They're buying scrubs for a teenager who just got a job as an LNA at a nursing home but can't afford the uniform. They do amazing, amazing things. And every day I'm just glad I get to tell you guys what they do.
How big a group is it of those coordinators that are doing that in Vermont?
We have, and we did, I believe we furloughed a couple, and then we got them back. So I believe right now we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 care coordinators over the states. There are more in New Hampshire than there are anywhere else. We have 3 in Vermont, and there's 1 in Vermont for the Upper Valley. So he crosses the border. So
Anyone else? Any other questions? Bill, you raising your hand there?
Yes, I am. I think I'm unmuted as well. Can you hear me?
Yep. You're
Thank
good.
God. Michelle, my question has to do with New Hampshire services. And in particular, you just mentioned residential facilities for children.
Mhm.
My understanding, this is something that is rather new for Easter Seals. I learned this through New Hampshire Housing, and the fact that Chris Miller, the former planning and development director for 25 to 30 years at New Hampshire Housing, has moved over and joined Easter Seals would indicate that that's a priority for the group. Could you amplify that, please, a little bit?
You know, that you really, as much as I know, because I am mostly concentrated in Vermont, I don't know as much about that, but I do know that Chris Miller has been, we have been working with different venues to provide our services. We have a really excellent, I have to say, administrative kind of group that has really been able to take on a lot of these different things, and they've gotten it kind of down to a science. So I think what happens is a lot of smaller facilities that start independently, independent nonprofits will come to us, and they, you know, it's becoming enough with the hiring, it's becoming enough with a lot of those administrative things. And so Easter Seals really kind of comes in and helps you know, bring more of a stable environment to some of these facilities that struggled for a long time. I know that's certainly true in the case of Farnham, and in the there's Larry Gaiman Academy, which is kind of his. Larry Gaiman used to be our CEO. He retired about a year and a half ago, and he was with Easter Seals New Hampshire for many, many, many years, worked kind of his way up, all the way up through those years. So these are kind of, I almost call them like they have been pet projects of different kind of groups of Easter Seals, and we kind of join them all under this umbrella that's able to kind of take care of all the other ancillary things so people can do their work.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question for Michelle.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Michelle, if people have a need for your services, how do they know to get in touch with you, and how do they do it?
Absolutely. And I can either, I will actually, I'm going to send the PDF of the presentation out. I will also email out a whole list of the services and the numbers and everything. But eastersealsnh.org is the best place that you can find all of that. And that is absolutely the repository for every program, everything that we do. And eastersealsvt.org is ours here in Vermont. So those 2 sites will get you anywhere for any of the services.
Well, Michelle, thank you very much for, I think you raised the awareness for Easter Seals considerably, probably for a number, which is great. That is great. So
Awesome. I love it.
Thank you very much for attending with us today. We're going to move on to the business portion of our meeting.
Thank you.
Have a
You
good
guys
afternoon.
enjoy this weather. I'm going to try and run outside for a minute.
Good for you.
All right. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.